Let's take a moment to talk about the knowledge of good and evil, magic, and sorcery. Good and evil are just words used to describe positive and negative, meaning a positive action in the plus or the up, or negative action in the negative or the down. You're pretty much talking about the difference between your upper body consciousness, which is from the heart chakra to the crown chakra, and your lower body consciousness, which is your sacral chakra all the way to the root chakra. And you can just about imagine what happens in the root chakra when you're talking about, the red, as far as like murder, kill, theft, all of those things that we do in our lower natures. As you can recall in the biblical text in Genesis, when Adam and Eve got caught, the God mentioned, behold, they have become as one of us, knowing good and evil. That means that God himself, herself, was fully aware of good and evil and had the full knowledge of it. So they got kicked out of the garden before they could eat the fruit from the tree of life and become immortal, knowing both good and evil without having learned the lesson of how to properly balance and utilize both. Now, when you talk about positive and negative actions are like a ledger. Basically, you can do too much of one thing on one side and you can do too much of one thing on the other side. And that is what puts you in a negative frequency or a negative deficit or a positive frequency. You can be too high and you can be too low. The entire point is to learn how to balance both. And I know people may be thinking, like, how can you do too much good? Well, doing good all the time and not understanding the balance of the negative and the positive is in the ego. And it's pretty much like having a cloak of righteousness and God saying, like, oh yeah, in my name you cast out devils, but I never knew you, depart from me type stuff. So yeah, you can possibly do too much good and it's coming from a place of egotistical thought, versus you understanding how evil actually works, how the darkness works, how to wield it in a positive way, and learning how to come to a center balance. You cannot go through life being perfect. That's not the reason why we are here. This is a earth school and you're here to learn how to balance the negative and the positive, or the good and the evil. The balance of good and evil also points to the 10 commandments, as I have demonstrated in diagrams on my page, and how that correlates to each of the centers of the body. And when you're talking about the heart chakra being a measure for every action that you commit throughout your body, we're talking about an elevation of love and understanding how that relates to how you treat others as you would like to be treated. And that is pretty much the golden rule of understanding how to balance the negative and the positive here. Now, when it comes to sorcery and magic, and I believe altogether that is a totally different topic. It has absolutely nothing to do with spirituality in the sense of your belief in God. It's more so an understanding of how to work the elements in your favor. Like you have bad witches, bad sorcerers, bad magicians, you also need good witches, good sorcerers, and good magicians, or else there won't be a balance. If you have incarnated here on this earth as a light worker, it is absolutely your duty to learn how to work the elements in your favor. That is learning all of the earth, wind, fire, becoming the avatar, learning how to work the different parts of the elements of magic within your sphere, within your ether, and how they move. And that goes from correlating colors to herbs to using fire through candles, using water as an element in order for you to exact the change you want to see. However, you need to become a practitioner of the light, and that means using your ether, your will, your power, your elements for the overarching good of the world, and not doing it just to get back at people or to do baneful magic. You're supposed to be using your abilities to aim higher for a better world. And that is the entire purpose of why a light worker is here. And that is the entire purpose of being able to wield magic and sorcery. So when you talk about the knowledge of good and evil, which is understanding how to wield your power, understanding that you need to be measuring everything against your heart chakra and making sure that you do unto others as you would have them do unto you, you're pretty much learning how to do sorcery and magic, which in essence is actually quantum physics, because everything is frequency and light. So you're typically just learning how to move frequency. If you're learning what the frequency is within certain herbs, that's pretty much all it is. Certain herbs hold certain energy because of the frequency that it resonates at. And, for the years that we have studied plant medicine and we understand this from a shamanistic, indigenous understanding, we know how these elements work and what works for what. That's already been well cataloged and well documented. So at this point, it's just a matter of understanding how to work all of those frequencies and move the light within your favor so that you can wield good. So understanding and knowing magic is one particular thing. Knowing how to work candles and do all of that great stuff, which is well documented, is one thing. But I will tell you a very large, well-kept secret. The most powerful magic is within the mind space. Anything that you create within your mind is magic. Do you know that you could actually build a temple in your mind, that you can imagine yourself having the best altar, the best elements, the best of everything within your mind space that you can revisit every time within the imagination? And it is probably the most powerful magic that you will ever wield. Also, understanding how to use the pen and how to wield the words is an even more powerful way of moving light frequency energy as well, meaning that you are writing down your intentions and doing incantations. A great book to explore this particular subject in more depth is Philip Cooper's The Magician. It teaches you how to build a temple within your mind space, and it's more like a practical way to use your imagination for magic. I highly recommend this book if you're just getting started, and if you are in a place where you don't have money, you can't afford to buy, anything in order for you to, start practicing. Using your mind space is all you need. You don't have money? Sure, build an altar within your mind and visit it every day and do what you need to do within your imagination. You have all of the elements that you need within the mind space. So until next time, peace, love, and light.